Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up show time with Liverpool taking on Barcelona on Tuesday night in the second leg of our Champions League semi-final, with one of the biggest tasks I think this football club has ever faced in front of them, certainly in terms of a single 90-minute match. Obviously, I'm recording this on Sunday night, so this is before we know what's happened between Manchester City and Leicester on Monday night. I think what happens there will have a huge bearing on what this game, this Champions League game, means for Liverpool, because, listen, if Manchester City drop, and I hope they do drop points in that game, then suddenly this game almost becomes a free hit, a chance to just, cement yourselves, give yourselves a place in history for the rest of time. And if it goes wrong, that's kind of fine, because if Manchester City do drop points, we'll be in pole position to finally get our hands on the league title. However, the slightly more likely, or depending on whether you're a pessimist or an optimist, the overwhelmingly more likely outcome is that Manchester City will not drop points against Leicester, and suddenly this is probably looking like somehow our best chance at silverware for this season. And that is, of course, an incredibly daunting task for Liverpool, because as we all know, we're 3-0 down from the first leg against a fantastic Barcelona side, and of course with the away goals rule coming into play, it means if they do get any sort of goal at Anfield, if they find the net at any point and the goal is allowed, that's almost the tie over. I mean, I can see us scoring 3, maybe even 4. 5 is a little bit mad. And I think, history obviously gives us plenty of examples of this kind of thing not happening. It also gives us a fair few examples of it happening as well. In Liverpool's recent history, you only have to look at as far back as Istanbul to see that this kind of result is more than possible. And I think you can take a look at the sides that played on that night in Istanbul, the team that Liverpool had to put out, and the Milan side we're up against, and realise that actually they had a much more daunting task on their hands than Liverpool do on Tuesday night. And of course, you can look at other Champions League games in recent years, like the one between Barcelona and PSG, where Barcelona even managed to overcome the seemingly impossible mountain of conceding what was seen to be the crucial killer away goal that PSG got in that game. So it is by no means impossible. However, it will be incredibly difficult, and it is just coming down now to one last push as well, simply because it's so late on in the season and injuries are finally starting to take their toll on this Liverpool side. I think we've done so well throughout this season. Jurgen Klopp has rotated well. He's used his squad depth brilliantly. He's trained these players up so they're able to go pretty much the distance. However, finally, the fixtures are just piling up a little bit more than we will have hoped. I think this little run here, where we've had to have gone from the Wednesday away in Barcelona to the Saturday away at Newcastle, and now another Tuesday game, another Champions League semi-final game as well, I think it's finally starting to take its toll on the squad. And of course, the way the Newcastle game panned out, and that will have a huge toll on the team as well. We really could have done with an easy 3 or 4-0 win or something like that, where everything was wrapped up on the hour mark and players could start to either take the foot off the gas or let themselves be wrapped up in cotton wool. Unfortunately, that is not how it is. Liverpool have been pretty much run into the ground, and like I said, it does just come down to one final push. And I think if we do want to get the kind of result we need to get through, it's also going to have to be a near perfect performance from this Liverpool side. Thankfully, I think that's possible. A Liverpool side of the past, I would not be able to see them, dominating Barcelona for 90 minutes. However, this team is such a brilliant combination of raw talent, tactical prowess, brilliant management from the manager, and great game management on the pitch during the game as it plays out. So I think if you put all those things together, then suddenly the perfect 90-minute performance is rare, is unlikely, but above all else is just about possible. So like I said, it is mission impossible for Liverpool on Tuesday night. It's going to be so difficult. There are plenty of things that could go wrong, and only a few things that any of us can see going right. But if there's anything this sport, and certainly being a Liverpool supporter, has taught us, not just in recent years, but just this season as well, it's that you should absolutely never ever give up, the weekend being an absolutely perfect example of that. So team news going into the game. Unfortunately, we don't yet know what's happening with Mohamed Salah. He sustained a knock to the head. He seemed concussed when he came off against Newcastle, and standard protocol, if it is a proper concussion, would be that he would miss out on this game. We already saw a few weeks ago that Firmino had to sit out a match because of a concussion that he picked up. I think he picked one up against Cardiff, and he had to miss out the game against Huddersfield, which is obviously a shame. So it's possible that Mo Salah might not be able to play, but like I said, Jurgen Klopp was a little bit kind of 50-50, umming and ahhing. I don't think he really was willing to disclose because we didn't yet know the extent of the injury. So that's something to look out for in his press conference, which I imagine will be at some point tomorrow afternoon at Anfield. In terms of other players who are out of the game, Roberto Firmino is definitely unavailable, which is a crushing blow for Liverpool, especially with the potential absence of Mohamed Salah, because we definitely missed Firmino in the game at the Nou Camp. I think we needed him to just finish off those fantastic attacks and flowing moves that we were putting together, and I think he would have been such a vital figure if we had him at our disposal on Tuesday night. But we've still got some fantastic players in the side. The Newcastle game showed that sometimes you don't actually need Salah and Firmino. A lot of times you do, but you still can get by without them if things just happen to go your way. And Liverpool have got some solid players on the bench who are capable of stepping up. Maybe not for an occasion like this. Maybe this is one step too far. But, you know, players' careers are defined by nights like these, and they will know that they have the opportunity to write themselves in the history books by getting a result. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, I think obviously it's going to be Alisson Becker in goal. The centre-back pairing, I think, has to be Matip and Van Dijk. Jurgen Klopp has essentially rotated between Matip and Lovren over the last few games. I think that is just a bit of a fitness thing because ever since Lovren got injured, Matip's basically had to play every single game, and unlike Virgil van Dijk, I don't think he's quite got the stamina to do so, especially given that he was very much in and out of the side in the first half of the season. So I think Matip comes back in for this one. Lovren obviously didn't have the best game against Newcastle as well, and I think maybe just a little bit too soon for Joe Gomez. I know he played in the game at the Nou Camp, but obviously playing centre-back is a totally different kettle of fish, and Joel Matip hasn't really been half bad for the last few months or so. So I think he partners Virgil van Dijk. I think the full-backs, you've got to go attacking. You've got to go with the first choice options. It's got to be Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think that was maybe one mistake that Jurgen Klopp did make at the Camp Nou, was playing Joe Gomez over Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, you know, hindsight's 2020, and who knows what could have happened. If Trent had played, the result could possibly have been even worse. But from where we're stood, I think we probably could have done with a little bit of an attacking threat. And obviously, if we're looking to score a minimum of 3 goals against Barcelona, we're probably going to need a hell of a lot of attacking force on the pitch. And that includes our absolutely fantastic full-backs, who are both now into double figures for Premier League assists already this season, with both of them notching up 11, 13 in all comps. How utterly phenomenal is that? The midfield then, I think it has to be Fabinho at the base. And I'm going to go with Henderson and Gini Van Wijnaldum either side of him. Obviously, there's no Naby Keita because of the injury he picked up at the Camp Nou. I think that is a bit of a blow because he would have been an ideal player to have in this type of game as well, just that extra threat going forward. Oxlade-Chamberlain, maybe just a little bit too soon for him, although he's another player who I think this is absolutely perfect for him. You know, the way he featured in that riotous 3-0 against Manchester City, if he could play like that on Tuesday night, I would give us an even bigger chance of somehow managing to overturn this deficit against Barcelona. But I just don't think it's quite the right time for him to be thrown back in, certainly for a game of this magnitude. And then I've gone with Wijnaldum over James Milner, simply because I think Wijnaldum just, you know, in these types of games, he just brings a level of performance that, you know, it's better than most players at this football club. It's rare. It only really happens on nights like these, but when we've got the chance, we have to use it. So I think he'll probably play in this game as well. And then the front three, I think because of the lack of Firmino and, you know, the way we'll have to shuffle our front three to cope with that, I think we go with Mane down the middle and then Origi down the left-hand side. I know Jurgen Klopp has been using Daniel Sturridge a little bit in recent weeks, but I think Origi has been really impressive. He obviously scores the winner against Newcastle as well, and in general has been such a threat. And I think if we want to unsettle that Barcelona back line, and I think people forget how much we did that at the Camp Nou, you know, Mo Salah, I think he dribbled past Clement Longley like 3 times in that game and managed to draw a fair few fouls out of him as well. So if you want to unsettle their back line by dribbling at them, Divock Origi is absolutely perfect for that. So I think he has to play, and he plays so well in that left wing role. He complemented Mane very well in the game against Watford. And I know Barcelona, Watford, totally different kettle of fish. But at the end of the day, you know, they're professional footballers. They know how to translate a performance like that into a game of this magnitude. So I'd go with Origi down the left, Mane through the middle, and if he's available, Mohamed Salah on the right. But if not, I'd go for the straight swap and I'd use Xherdan Shaqiri. Now, I know a Shaqiri, Mane, Origi front line isn't going to fill anyone with hope. It doesn't look like world beaters. It doesn't look like a team that can rip Barcelona to shreds. But like I said, stranger things have happened this season. If you told me that Divock Origi would have got not 1, but 2 crucial last-minute winners that have helped keep us top of the Premier League as it stands, If you told me that at the start of the season, I would have told you to get lost. I wouldn't have even expected Divock Origi to get minutes on the pitch in the Premier League, let alone score crucial goals. So what I'm trying to say is stranger things have happened. So taking a little look at Barca then, things were a little bit easier for them over the weekend. I believe it might have been Celta Vigo they were playing, but whoever it was, they ended up losing 2-0. However, that was with an incredibly weakened 11. Not a single player who started on Wednesday night started that game as well. Oh, to be able to afford that luxury. How fantastic it would have been if we'd been able to rest every single player rather than sending them out to run themselves into the ground on a cold Saturday night in Newcastle. But that is quite simply the hand we have been dealt. Thankfully, or, you know, I know people say it's like disrespectful to say thankfully players who got injured and stuff like that, but we need to beat Barcelona 3-0, man. I mean, give us a break. We've got to take every small victory we possibly can. Ousmane Dembele, this is what I'm trying to say, is injured for the game. He sustained a knock on Saturday, which means I believe it was to his hamstring, so he's definitely going to be out for this game, which I think is good news for Liverpool, because while he didn't start in the game on Wednesday night, I still rate him more than Coutinho. I think he gels more naturally with Barcelona's front three than Coutinho does, and I think Coutinho, while he's pretty solid when Barcelona are dominating and they've got a lot of possession, that's certainly not what's going to happen at Anfield on Tuesday night, and I think Dembele is much more of a threat on the counter-attack, and like I said, fits in much better with Barcelona's front three, what with them having Messi cutting inside so much. Him and Coutinho kind of, you know, they Ghostbusters style cross the streams when they do that, and it doesn't really work. So Ousmane Dembele is not going to be available for this game. Apart from that, because of all those players they rested, they've got a pretty much clean bill of health, and you know, you don't need me to tell you how Barcelona play. We saw it all on Wednesday night. We also saw that they're not actually as good as the scoreline suggested. You know, Liverpool did not deserve to lose that game 3-0 by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe we deserve to lose, but I think not by that margin, and certainly not without an away goal to at least give us a little bit of hope. That obviously would have completely changed the complexion of the tie going into the second leg if we knew we had at least that small advantage to cling on to. Sadly, we don't, but as I said, Barcelona were not perfect. They were essentially like Liverpool, where they played a good game, they matched their opponents pretty well, but on occasions, they just got opened up by the sheer quality of the opposition, and unfortunately for us, they took their chances in those scenarios, and we just didn't. And what we've got to make sure is that that is the complete reverse on Tuesday evening, because, you know, part of me just thinks they can't do it again. They can't get away with a result like that once again. And I certainly can't see them winning 3-0 or 2-0 or 4-1 or whatever. I can't really see Barcelona winning this game either. I think it's either going to be a draw or a Liverpool win. It's simply a matter of what the scoreline is. And listen, I mean, none of us believe 100%. None of us are going into this game thinking, yeah, I categorically think Liverpool are going to get the result. But on the flip side, I don't think there's any of us going into this thinking there's absolutely no way we're getting through. We've all seen Istanbul, and I know people, you know, rival fans will criticise us and say we need to stop living in the past and stuff like that. But football has a habit of, you know, repeating itself. It's the same sport at the end of the day. We all know how it tends to go. Sometimes it throws up surprises, and other times it just feels inevitable. You know, the game against Newcastle felt like one of those in a way, where we just knew that Liverpool, with their knack of scoring late goals to drag results out the fire, were going to do it again. And hopefully Liverpool, with their knack of making famous nights happen when they need it most, will be able to pull this one out of the fire as well on Tuesday night. They might not, and at the end of the day, if we don't, but we still give a good performance and get a solid result, just a win would be absolutely fantastic, and I think would give us a huge amount of pride in this team, because if we crash out the Champions League with no pride to our name, then it would be a shame given how good this season has been. If we go out nobly, being able to say we tried our absolute best and gave our all, then I think we can look back and say, you know what, this season wasn't half bad. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, as always, hit that like button down there, hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back on Tuesday night after we've hopefully pulled off a miracle against Barcelona. Until then, bye for now.